All right. Here we are. We are live on Cards and Comics. First time in almost 7 months, I think. I think the last live stream was like around December of last year. So it's been a while. So I'm just kind of hanging out here live. Hopefully some folks want to join later, and see how everything is. So welcome everyone. Yeah, and this is 3 years. Getting all comfy here. It's a long night at work, man. Before I came here, I didn't get off work till like 9:15. It's a long time. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started with, the original, you know, premise of tonight was I've been hinting at, some changes. So first off, it's 3 years. So I've been on YouTube for 3 years, which is kind of weird. Like it feels like, it just started. But in some ways, it's also felt, I have felt some of the pain of, being on YouTube and kind of growing a channel, or sometimes you could say not growing a channel. Depends on how you look at it for the last 3 years. So thanks, David. I really appreciate it. So I had recorded, this is the third time I've recorded two static videos. I was going to talk about my 3 years on YouTube. I had graphs and charts and data, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just do something that's just me talking to people. And on a live stream, at least you're talking to people that want to, be there and listen to, sort of what you got to say. So, again, 3 years. And the thing that's funny is I started my YouTube channel almost like, I want to say 3 to 4 months after Neo. And sorry, I'm making sure I don't have a call here. And if you think about it, like, it feels like I started like years after Neo. And a lot of folks on YouTube, I feel like I'm always new. If you look at my channel, like metric wise, hey, thanks, Mookie. I really appreciate it. Comparatively to some other channels, and I was, in fact, in my video I did that I no longer, I'm not going to show because I felt like it was not a video that, hold on one second. My wife's trying to get a hold of me. Sorry. It's a weird thing to do in a live stream to talk to my wife. I'm going to tell her she's not here right now. That's why. And I'm just going to tell her I'm sorry. This is riveting live TVNO, but I'm actually at home, by myself in a house. So my kids are in camp. My wife is in Indiana, and I'm just chilling at home. That's why it took me a long time to get to this video. I've been traveling a lot. I've been in Europe 4 times in the last 2 months. So that's why a lot of my videos I haven't really been putting out. So on the 3-year anniversary, I thought it was a good time to kind of reflect on where I'm at channel-wise and sort about content, about what's coming up. Obviously, the Nationals coming up. So what I want to say is, which I've had a hard time putting down to words, is I'm going to probably, well, not probably. I mean, I made the decision. I'm not going to really do a lot of content like I used to in the past. I'm going to focus on a few things. I'm going to do, live streams. I'm going to do my box openings, my 90s box breaks, and I'm going to do collector, mail days. But I'm not going to do any more of the videos where I, do analytics, or kind of like the PowerPoint videos, or any of the things where I was putting a lot of time and effort into it to create the videos. Because one of the things I want to say is I'm going back and get my doctorate. So I am seeking right now a program. So I want to go back and get my doctorate in 2 things. So I don't know which I'm going to do first, but toxicology is one of them, and then regulatory law is the other one. I want to get my. I also want to take the bar. I've kind of decided I want to go back, finish my law school. I've got a master's degree in law, and get my PhD, take my bar. The reason why I need a doctorate degree to take the bar is because I'm a scientist. I did not go through traditional law school. My master's degree is from Michigan State University, but the way it works is you have to have a PhD to take the bar if I'm a non-traditional law student. So it's just how I have to do that. But that's what I want to do. And so to do that, I'm going to have to sacrifice some things. One of them is I can't spend 20 to 40 hours on making like a video around pricing or, just some of the video content I've made recently. The other thing too is that kind of video content really wasn't growing the channel as well. If you really look at the metrics, I'm still getting less than 100 views on some content. And so to me, like, putting 40 hours into a video and then, not seeing a lot of interaction, I'm going to just focus on the content that I can create and do something that I feel like I can put out there and not take away from my other, thing is going back to school and finishing my doctorate degrees. Hey, card hobbyist. I know I really enjoy it too. That kind of video too was really just me answering questions I've had, like, could I prove, statistically that the Griffey 89 upper deck is, statistically improbable that it has such a low pop count, things like that, just because it was a question I had. So I did a lot of those videos just for my own curiosity. And yeah, Mookie, I waited a long time. I'm 48 years old. I went back to school when I was 46 to get my master's degree. I've got a bachelor's in science. I had put together 12 credits towards a doctorate degree in chemistry when I quit the first time to move to New York. Then when I went back to school, I went back to school to law school. I didn't go back and finish my chemistry degree. So yeah, I've done a lot of school, but I finally finished a program 2 years ago. So about a year and a half ago, I got my master's degree. So anyone, you could do it anytime. I mean, it's the way that they've got these learning distance programs and online schools, it's not as hard as it used to be. But yeah, so I used to keep maybe one of these I'll show it. I had a list of ideas for like content that I was creating, and I've kind of run out of. Hey, hey man, good to see New York Yanks fan here. Awesome, one of the first followers on my channel, and the only person I've ever had on live. So you still have that distinction. So yeah, like that list of ideas for videos is pretty much gone to zero. So I don't really have things that I'm thinking about putting out there. I've kind of put out everything that I've thought about putting out. But yeah, it's hard not to look at making content and having a channel not grow. I mean, I still have less than 1,000 subscribers after 3 years, and so I think that is a pretty tough place to be. I've talked to a lot of other content creators, and yeah, I mean, to a T, they've all said they would quit. They had my channel metrics. It's kind of sad. It's like that was Jeremy said that to me, Jeremy Lee, and Neo kind of hinted at it as well, that with my level of growth, they would have probably have all quit by now. So I think that's either I'm either crazy to keep going and keep making content, or it doesn't really matter how much following you have, how big you are, if you enjoy the content. But what I'm going to focus on, what I want to really announce is I can, the face videos, the stuff that I was putting a lot of effort into. Um, you know, um, all that stuff, I'm not going to do as much anymore. I'm not going to say never. If I see something I want to do, I'll do it. But I'm going back to school. I'm going to get my doctorate. So that's going to take a lot of time away from when I can do this kind of stuff. But the one thing I do want to say is, like, I'm embarking on a different project that I'm going to document. I want to open one of every box of baseball cards made in the 90s. So if you go to my channel now, I created a new playlist. Hey, card hobbyist. Yeah, 682 after 4 years. I hear you, man. Like, it's tough growing channels with collector content. I'm not here to like bash anyone's other channel. Like, everyone grows at their own rate. I'm just saying, like, you know, um, like for me, it's just the engagement. And that's what I really want to talk about is the engagement. Like, I get videos with like 0 comments, 1 comment. So I did this whole thing to really talk to people and have conversations. And if that's not going to happen, then I'm just going to, I just want to do the content that I really enjoy, because that was also generating a lot of comments and a lot of back and forth. So I'm just going to focus on that while I go back to school. Um, yeah, and it shouldn't. I mean, like, again, like, when I go and do this next phase of my channel and do this other content, I'm going to be happy doing it. I'm going to be opening boxes. I'm going to be talking about my collection. I'm going to be talking about what I collect, and that's going to be a lot of fun for me. And that's what I really enjoy doing anyway. The other videos were just kind of like when I had an idea, I would do something. Now I'm going to take that energy and again go back to school with it, and hopefully, yeah, I do too. The live streams, which I haven't done in a while. And the reason why I haven't done live streams in a while is because I've been traveling a lot. I think everyone, or if you've been following a little bit, I've been to Chile, I've been in Spain twice, I've been in Holland twice. So I have been traveling a lot for work. And that's just, how it goes. And that's another thing too, is while I'm going back to school, I'm going to still work full time doing what I'm doing now, which still takes a lot of travel and a lot of effort to do the stuff I'm doing right now. So that's why, again, doing more content is just going to be tough. And I'm not saying that box breaking and collector content is easy. It's just, it's not scripted. I don't have to like create a script. I don't have to film in parts. I don't have to edit it together. I don't have to, put together like the presentation and all that stuff. The 50s versus 60s video I just did is like, it took about 40 hours for me to put that together, in terms of just the research and putting that video together. So, that stuff just is going to be hard to do when I'm getting my doctorate. So yeah, and thanks, Carlos. I appreciate it. That's just, how it's going to happen. But I want to, just have a conversation about it, because, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop collecting or doing this other content. I'm just going to really focus on doing, the stuff that I really enjoy. And I went back and I looked. So if you look on my channel today, there's a new playlist that's kind of like second tier. So I've got my normal videos. Then there's another playlist that lists all my sport card box breaks from the 90s. And I was actually surprised to find out that I've done 41 90s box breaks in 3 years. That actually surprised me, because I thought maybe it was 20 or 30. But I've actually done 41, which is like to me kind of funny, that I've done that many. But it just shows you, like, that's how much I like doing it. Um, and that's sort of where I'm going to focus is, now, do I think I can open every box from the 90s? I don't know. I know there's some that are super expensive, super hard to find. I've done some of the hard ones. I mean, I did I've already done a Metal Universe box, the first year of Metal Universe. So to me, that's a pretty tough one. But the EX products are tough. Chirography, the SP Authentic stuff is hard to find. It's just like those boxes are harder to find. So some of the stuff may be really tough to get into. But I've done Donner's Preferred. So I've done some of the hard ones. 93 Finest obviously would be tough. 89, or I guess I don't have to do 89 Upper Deck. I still want to do an 89 Upper Deck box on the channel just to do it. I've opened a lot of 89 Upper Deck, just private life. So before YouTube. So I'm not really itching to open up 89 Upper Deck, because I know what it looks like. It's either 5 Griffies or none. That's how all those boxes were for me. I mean, maybe one, but it's like you either get a lot of Griffies or you get maybe one. And that's how every 89 Upper Deck box has been for me. So to me, it's like, I hate to open one channel and be the 1 or 0 Griffey box, because just how the collation was for Upper Deck, it was just really sucky back in those days. But yeah, like, so I just want to say that, I don't want to like tell everyone I'm leaving YouTube and I'm quitting. But you're going to see less content, and you're going to see maybe not different content, but just less of some other content. So just want to say that and talk to people about it. And it's not, again, anyone's fault. It's just that's how YouTube works. And collector videos and collector content just doesn't grow as fast as other content where you're yelling at people or, or bringing up the kind of the hot topic of the week. And I just can't do, I just don't have that in me to do it. I mean, one of the jokes, I had 2 jokes I made in my video that I'm never going to show. Again, I recorded 2 videos to talk about this. So I did 2 jokes. First joke was I was never going to make the YouTube faces in a thumbnail. And I had an example. There's actually a chart out there you can find that shows you how to make all the YouTube faces. Like how to do an angry face, a surprised face. So there's an actual guide to how to make. And I said to myself, I will never make a YouTube face for a thumbnail. And I haven't. I've done 460 videos with only doing one. There's one video thumbnail with my face on it out of 460. So I think I may be doing a YouTube record. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that'd be the second one. Is I'll be the only channel to have every 90s box baseball box break on, and I'll be the only channel to never do more than one YouTube facial expression on a video. Carlos, do you do faces for your videos? I think you do this. I don't think you do. I don't think you're a face guy. But like every time I see like Dustin do one of his videos where he's just doing the the shocked Macaulay Culkin face, it just makes me giggle. I just think it's so silly, but evidently it does help you grow your channel. So a car trimming video, yeah. I mean, Maximus, car trimming is one of those things where, New York Yank fan actually had a good video where he talked about that he probably has trim cards in his collection. And I'm going to say the same thing. I guarantee you, because I probably have about a little over 1,000, maybe over 2,000. I don't even, I don't have I'm really bad about keeping track of how much stuff I have. Vintage cards. It would shock me if not one of those cards was trimmed. Based on what I know about the hobby and knowing about how prevalent trimmers were in the beginning of PSA, I would be shocked if I didn't have a trim card in my hand. Because, back in the day, I got hit by WeWag when it was a game. I got hit with multiple WeWag cards, like 5 of them. So that was like a very short period of time in the PSA realm for me to have 5 WeWag cards in that short period of time. And with how much trimming's been going on, it would be hard for me to think that I don't own a few trim cards in my collection. And that's just sort of the sucky thing. I put a video out about it where if you're going to be in this hobby and you're going to collect cards, you're going to have to accept the fact that you're probably going to get some cards in your collection that are altered or changed in a way you don't want. And, unfortunately, the hobby is built upon people trying to screw each other over. And that's the real reason. I mean, that's why we have PSA. I've said it all along. We wouldn't need PSA or these other companies if we weren't all trying to screw each other over so much in these transactions. But dealers couldn't help themselves. Collectors can't help but wanting to have the best perfect cards in the world. And then there's the financial aspect of it. You add all that up together and you're going to have people come into this hobby and just see the money and say, hey, I can do a little trim of this card. I can do a little erase on this card, and I can make $200 or $300 or $500 or $1,000. And it just happens. And I knew that when I was really young. Probably when I was still in high school, I knew that was part of the hobby. And I just, I kind of chose to stay in it. But I can see why people would, get upset and leave. And, and I feel bad for people who find out that they bought a major card and then it's altered or it's not real or there's something wrong with it. That's just, that sucks. And there's nothing that makes that better, especially if you get screwed over. The other thing that, I would love to talk about, is coming up is the National with everyone. I'm going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. My Friday, so I was going to originally go down Thursday. In fact, I got to call the hotel and change my reservation or see what I can do about it because my daughter's coming back from camp on Friday. Last year, she went with me to the National. She's staying home this time. She wants to stay with her friends. I mean, she's 16 years old. I mean, sure, hanging out with her dad at the National isn't number one thing on our priority list. So she's going to stay home. And so I'm going to pick her up, drop her off on Friday. So I can't come down till I take her home from camp. And I mean, I have to do this. I'm the only one here. I have to do that, or I will get ostracized from the family if I don't bring her home. So that means Thursday's out, Friday's out. So then I'll be coming down Friday night. Hopefully, I can hit a trade night, and which if you watched any of the intro video to the live stream, I did go back to my video from 2022 right after the national where I talked about trade night and how trade night was a really cool event. It was free. It was like this really kind of open environment to trade and buy cards. And then it was announced that no one could have a trade night unless it was sponsored by the national. And that kind of was what I was talking about. It's like eventually, and then they backpedaled. So I don't know if anyone heard. I think Card Porn had a Instagram post about it. I know Sports Card Nonsense just did a video or did a podcast where they talked about it. They had the people on the national contacted them and said, no, you can have a trade nights. You just you can't say it's affiliated and you can't charge money for it and stuff. But we all know, and I think they're backpedaling. They had originally sent letters to people or talked to people and said you can't do this. It's going to happen. I mean, the dealers hate trade night. I've talked to many dealers. They hate trade night. They think it undercuts them. They think that they should be the only ones that have access to people's cards at shows like this. They hate it. So I'm going to tell you, like, the trade night's going to get monetized. It's going to get taken over by somebody else. They're going to police it. It's just going to happen. It's just like anytime there's something good in this hobby that's free, someone figures out a way to make money off of it, and it sucks. But I mean, I do agree with people who say, look, you can just like go out in the parking lot and have a trade night. Like you can have you can go to McDonald's, the one that's real close to Rosemont, and have a trade night there, right? You don't need to be in a hotel, and you don't need, a space. You can just do it anywhere. So they're not going to get rid of it, but they're going to make it harder, and they're going to basically, do it in a way to make people want to go to theirs. They're going to give you free pizza. They're going to, bring a DJ in. They're going to give giveaways. They're going to have box breaks. They're going to make it, hey, Ziggy, how's it going, man? So, one of the things I did say in the video, that I didn't, I'm not going to release, was that I've been invited on 3 channels the entire time I've been on YouTube. So for 3 years, I've been on 3 channels. I was on Ziggy first. So Ziggy was the first one to invite me on a channel. Dustin was second, and then Carlos was third. So those 3 guys have been super nice to me, and I really appreciate them helping me out. In all cases, my channel grew, tremendously after those appearances. So collaboration in the YouTube space really works. I'm just not. I don't really have a clique. I have found YouTube content creators are kind of cliquish. Like tonight there was a live stream like with a bunch of vintage card collectors, and like 10 of them on screen at one time. It's like, that's a group of YouTube content creators that kind of stick with themselves. I'm not in those groups. I'm not in any of those. I'm not in anyone's sort of like clique. I'm not in Dustin's clique. I mean, I'm friends, in terms of like, if I see him or, we do some Instagram messaging, but, I've never met Neo. I've never talked to him personally live. I've met Flipping Steve once, talked to him one time. I've never met Dustin. So I Jeff Wilson, I saw him once in the hallway and he shook my hand. So it's like, I'm not an insider in the YouTube world. Like, I don't have like contacts. I don't have sponsorships. So when my channel, like, I think for anyone who's been in the hobby trying to grow, or have a channel, it's like, you really need people helping you. Like collaborating is the best way to grow. I've just never been really good at, kind of putting myself out there or asking people, can I be on your channel or stuff like that. So, but I do appreciate, I was asked by those 3 people to come on, and I did, and they was all 3 really good experiences. I've been on Carlos's channel more than once. So it's been a great, man. I really appreciate that they asked me to be on. And again, New York Yanks fan was on first guest, only guest so far on my channel. Um, and I really like. And there's been such good new YouTubers on. I mean, was it Junkyard Wax Hero, something like that. Um, I've caught some of his content. He does really good interviews. I really like his content. There's a new Clemente collector that's on right now. So there's a lot of good new YouTubers on too. So it's the idea that YouTube content is going away. I see actually more people doing it today than I remember doing it when I first started. So I don't think we're going to have less YouTubers. I think it's going to continue to grow. But I've said this a lot. That the winners and losers have kind of been picked. The people who are going to get sponsors and the people who are going to really grow to big numbers are kind of already been decided. You can see it happening. And I think Ziggy would probably agree with it. You can see who's positioning themselves to be the kind of like hobby leaders in this world. And everyone else is just kind of having fun and doing their own thing and doing collector content. Because you're not going to make a living doing this. This isn't like real life. And that's why I said earlier in this live feed was I've got to go back to school to get my doctorate, because it's been a lifelong dream and goal of mine, but also it's going to set me up for my next phase of my career in my life. Once I get my doctorate degree, I can choose kind of what I want to do next. And I don't have to maybe work for companies anymore. I can maybe work for universities. I can maybe work for, law firms, work for the government, regulatory agencies, do things that's different, create law instead of have to, interpret law, things like that. So, we all have different goals and ambitions in life. And I'm hoping to take this time because, I'm getting close to 50 years old. I've got to start making these plans now. I don't want to be 65 years old and, having to travel the world doing what I'm doing now, and not being able to have a exit strategy. And so going back to school and getting my doctorate is really how I'm going to control my second phase of my my career. So that it's that's why it's important. It's important to me. It's important to my family. So sometimes you have to kind of like pick and choose. I did my master's degree by doing content, and it was really, really rough. And I just feel like when I go back to do my doctorate degree, because that's going to require me to write a thesis, I'm going to have to actually physically go to school, be in person, travel. So that's just another level of seriousness that I don't think will allow me to really do a lot of scripted content. And so yeah. Um, so as far as the national, like who's all going, I'm going to be there again Friday. I'm seeing the Holiday Inn. So I'm a little disappointed I wasn't able to get a hotel connected, but I mean, I'm assuming those sold out pretty quickly. And I'm excited to go. I have a strategy. I talked about it in my videos. I'm going to go after the 68 3D Clemente for real. I'm not going to just half-ass it like I've been the last few years, where I just kind of talk about it, but I don't really look for it. Where I mean, really look for it. The way you really look for it, and what I'm trying to hint at is, you ask dealers if they know someone who has one, who might be willing to sell it, because it may not be at the show, right? But they may know someone who has one who might be willing to sell or trade it, and then what you're really asking for them to do is help you kind of broker a deal or something like that. So I'm really going to go after it. I'm going to really, talk to my dealer contacts, contacts, and see if I can really find one. I really would like to take it off my list of things to look for. I think I'm going to have to spend anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 to get it. So to do that, I'm going to have to bring a lot of cards with me to sell. So I'm a little nervous about bringing cards with me, honestly. Like, bringing that volume of cards. to show is kind of nerve wracking. So, last year I probably had about $10,000 of cards with me in my case. This year I'm going to have a lot more. So, hopefully, it's a little safer. I felt a little unsafe at Atlantic City, honestly. Going from my room up to the convention center, it just felt like there was just people milling about and running around that didn't seem like they should be there. But hey, I am a nervous kind of guy. Hey, thanks, B. You know, really appreciate it. Um, and I mean, the thing I love about doing the lives, and you know, um, the card hobbyist said this as well. Like live streams, you know, are definitely more fun. They're definitely more interactive. And I wish I'd been doing more. Um, and with my family out this week, they're all either traveling or at camps. It's easier for me to do these kind of things because it's really tough to do live streams when you get people in the basement where I'm located, where you got people like running around upstairs, dogs barking, water running. Because I'm in the basement, so I got pipes above me. So it's just not the greatest thing to have to fight when you're trying to do a live stream. So this makes it a little easier to do this kind of thing. But yeah, like anyone going after anything specific, because again I mentioned I'm going after the 3D Clemente. And obviously tons of Griffey cards. It's funny, if you go to my videos, you can see my dad comments on my videos a lot. And one of the funniest comments that he's put in a while is he wrote, don't go, he's like, don't go after the Griffies, go after the vintage cards. He's like, don't do it, man. Don't sell your Mano cards and buy Griffey cards. He will not be happy if I sell my 52 Bowman Mano and buy some Griffey Jr. cards. He's just that's to him, like, that's just not smart. And I'm kind of like, if it's the right Griffey card, I would sell a Mano card to buy a Griffey card. I would do that. And I know some people on this chat may think it's dumb to do that, but it's just, but you like collecting. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you kind of get in these phases of collecting, and I've been in a Griffey phase for a long time, and it came right after I completed my Clemente base set, and I thought I was kind of done with Clemente, honestly. I wasn't. Then I started looking at Cons cards and Peachy cards, and I'm like, man, there's still more to collect. Yeah, so I'm still going to go look for Clemente cards. It's funny because I started looking for Clemente cards like in 1987. I was going to mall shows and stuff, and with my dad. I started with my dad about 1989, but I was going, just I'd get my mom to go to a mall show, and I would look for the most beat up Clementes I could find, and start that way, and so you know, last year I got my last Clemente, and from the base set, and I was almost kind of like, I'm done. I've been collecting Clemente for like 30 years, and I'm like, maybe I can, so I thought like I could do something. I could go after someone else. Yeah, man, like 90s Pinnacle. So 97 Pinnacle, new Pinnacle. They have those really cool artist proofs. If you can find boxes of 97 Pinnacle, or so in 97 with Pinnacle, they did the series 1 of the base set, and it didn't do well from, I think, the number. So they canned series 2 and redesigned the product and called it New Pinnacle, different design. So that was, in both of them have different inserts, but the New Pinnacle has the green artist proofs, and let me show you one. I got one floating around here. But so in 97 they did the green, red, and blue artist proofs in New Pinnacle, and I have a Frank Thomas floating around if I can ever find it, that I'm taking with me to the National to get graded, and they look amazing. So I'm just saying, like, that's, and you get, I think, yeah, here's the green Frank Thomas. Now I just got the Griffey back in the mail, so This is definitely a nice looking card. You can see it's got the artist proof on it. And this is again out of New Pinnacle. So you just have to kind of figure out when you go and you're going to buy a box of Pinnacle, you just kind of, because I don't think the product's called New Pinnacle. It was supposed to have been, again, Pinnacle Series 2, and they kind of canned it because it didn't do well. So I believe the box just says Pinnacle, and then it's like, new design or something, and everyone's called it New Pinnacle ever since. But I don't think they called it New Pinnacle. It's just what the hobby kind of called it after it came out. Now, if you go to, make sure I got the year right here. I believe it's 96. So I believe the year before they did these artist proofs. And so they basically copied Topps Finest. They did gold, silver, and bronze. So here's the gold Jeter. So again, these Pinnacle cards are just awesome. I mean, they're Dufex, they're shiny, they're kind of like refractors and those Dufex cards all combined. But this is the Jeter gold. I have the Griffey as well. So I love Pinnacle. I mean, you get me started on Pinnacle. I really think Pinnacle was really innovative in the 90s. And, I really, 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 really like Pinnacle. I think it's the only thing that's wrong with Pinnacle is this. The card's brick. So you have to be careful when you buy the boxes that they're not bricked up because of how they did that, their glossy cards. A lot of their cards were that glossy finish, and so they brick up pretty easily. No, these are not numbered. I wish they were. That's one thing Pinnacle really didn't do well. They didn't number the cards. Now they numbered some of their the mirror golds, but like even that they only did that for like 1 year, which was stupid. If they would have numbered some of these inserts, my God, could you imagine what a gold Griffey artist proof would be worth if it was numbered to 50? I mean, you're talking like a $5,000 to $10,000 card now, versus it's like who knows how many are made because they're not numbered, but they don't go for near the money, but they're really tough pulls. I mean, if you really look at the odds, man, those to pull one of those is just really, 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 really hard. So my my attack plan is always the same. So when I go to the National, I normally am pretty loose. I don't really go in with like I have to find this one card, right? But this year I am going in with the mentality of looking for Griffeys and Frank Thomas and some of the other players I collect and just see what's there. Because my experience is this: hot players and hot cards are overpriced and they don't move fast. Some things will. Now there's going to be some mega collectors there that will either overpay or hard pressed to get a deal on the really good stuff. So when I get there on Friday and Saturday, I'm going to either bank on two things. One is that the really, really, really good stuff has either been purchased or is really overpriced. So you're going to have to do something there. So that's why I'm not as worried about showing up on a Saturday and thinking like every good Griffey's gone. Just all the reasonably priced, really good Griffeys are probably gone. If you want to overpay a little bit or try to trade into something, that's probably your strategy. But the best thing I could say to you is that, when you get there, don't spend a lot of time at the tables if you're looking for something specific. I've learned that you're going to find very few dealers that have mixed inventory. So if you find a guy that's got tons of vintage, but you're looking for Griffey cards or modern cards, just keep, just don't spend, just try to get through that show as much as possible. And you'll find that the tables that really have the stuff you're looking for, you'll find 2 or 3 dealers that's what they specialize in. And they know their prices. When you find those guys, that's going to be the guy you want to really do a deal with, because they probably know the comps really well. They know if what you're looking for. You may have cards of similar type that they're looking for as well. So that's a match made in heaven. The other thing I look for, and this is the opposite strategy. So if I don't have something I'm specifically looking for, I do something I call like an opposite view, find where I'm going out there. And I'll give you some examples. Um, I was at a show once, and the 53 Mano I have, I can go grab it, but I have a 53 Mickey Mantle Topps PSA 6.5. It was the only vintage card the guy had on his table. It was all modern to semi-modern cards. So, for example, his table was full of Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, autographs, rookie cards, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., and then this one Mantle card. And so I get there and I'm looking at this one Mantle card, and it's a really nice Mantle card. Let me grab it real quick. I'm sorry. Hope I got the right pile. Sorry. Everything pulled out here. All right. It's this one right here. So it's a 6.5. So only card on this table that was vintage. And I had some Tom Brady cards, and I had a few Peyton Manning cards. And he gave me like full book value for all that modern cards. And he told me directly, it's like, I got this Mantle card in a trade and I really didn't want it. And he's like, if you'll trade me some stuff I can use, I'll give you a deal on this Mantle. And I got this Mantle for $3,500 back in 2018. And I didn't pay 35. I traded in a bunch of Mantle or other cards for it. So I think I ended up paying like $1,000 plus those cards for that Mantle. And it just because like he didn't care about it. He liked those other cards because that's what he collected, and that's what he was, what he really knew about. But that Mantle card was like like he wanted to flip it as soon as he get out, but he did not want that card. And that's just an example where if you can find someone who, their whole table's Pokemon, and he's got like 2 sports cards sitting there, those 2 sports cards are probably, going to be valued much lower than what his other his Pokemon cards. And I find that all the time. I don't have it anymore, but my 52, I had a 52 PSA 7 Willie Mays Topps, and it was at a Chicago Sports Fest last day of the show. The guy had Mays table money back, and he basically had only Cub cards. He was a Chicago guy, and it is, sorry, here you go. It's a 6.5, and it's got great color. Sorry, move my hand here. Try not to get the glare on it. And so he had that Mays card, and I had a few Cub cards with me, like Ernie Banks and this kind of thing. We worked out a deal, and I got that 52 Topps Mantle PSA 7 for under $1,200 back. And that was a little bit longer ago. That was like probably around 2009, 2010. But still, he was highly motivated because he wanted Cub cards, and that Mays card was a boat anchor, and he hadn't made his money back on the tables yet. So it's just, those things can work out, and that's the magic of the National. It's like you can make a deal happen that you may not have been able to without that many dealers all together at one time. The other card that I bought at the 2018 National with the Mantle, so I got these 2 cards the same show, was this Babe Ruth card. So this is a 33 Babe Ruth. It's a PSA 4. It's got beautiful red color. You can see the borders are very white. It presents super nice, right? I'll show you the back as well. So, I went to that show looking for 3 cards. I went to that 2018 National looking for a 52 Topps Jackie Robinson, a 33 Babe Ruth, and a 50s Mantle card, in high grade. That was like, I wanted those 3 cards. I had sold a bunch of Mike Trout cards. I had a Mike Trout collection for a long time. I sold it and a bunch of other modern cards. I kind of just cleaned house on modern, and I took that money, and this is what I, and that's what I used to buy cards at the show with. My dad was with me for the show as well. But at the time, this card was booking for about $5,000, I believe. He had it priced at $6,500, so it's $1,500 over the book value or the last sold value on VCP. And I got him down. I think I was pretty close. I didn't think I got him that far off. Maybe I got him a couple $100 down, but it was well over comp. And I just bought it because it was such a nice card. And of course, this card has gone up tremendously in value since then. But I had done such a good deal on some other cards. I kind of like, I overpaid for the Ruth, I underpaid for the Mantle. I bought some other cards. I bought the 63 Willie Mays at that show as well, that I paid $350 for. I mean, compared to today, I mean, that's just a really silly price. And I also picked up the 55 Topps Jim Thorpe PSA 7, all on that same show. So I took all the Mike Trout money, and got those cards. Yeah, I would say, B, if you go back into VCP and I always talk about VCP because to me, I'm old and I know how to use it. But if you go back to like some of those time periods, man, some of those prices, $5,000 for a 33 Ruth 4 was the going rate. Prices pre 2016 were still really flat. 2016 is when you had all those rookie cards kind of jump in price, and then then around 2020 they jumped in price again tremendously. But yeah, I mean, just to give you an example, I bought my 58 Jim Thorpe rookie card before the vintage cards really spiked during COVID. So it would have been like January, February 2020. I paid $1,200 for a SGC 7 Jim Brown rookie card. It was very well centered. I sold it that same year for over $6,000. Same year. That's how much that card went up. $1,200 to $6,000. And I'm not sure what it's worth today. I think it's worth more than $6,000. I think it went up even more. But that was an SGC 7 that was pretty well centered. But that just shows you, like, pre 2020, you could have probably had a PSA 7 Jim Brown rookie card for under $1,000. And that's just, vintage football cards have always been underpriced. It's insane how underpriced vintage football cards were for players like Johnny Unitas. I mean, the 62 Topps set, the Jim Brown, the Hall of Famers in that set should be worth even more money than they are today. If I go to the National, there's two cards at the National that I would overpay for even today's prices, just because I think they're some of they're low pop and they're iconic. It's the 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson and the 62 Topps Jim Brown. Like, those two cards to me are extremely hard to find in any kind of condition above a 4. That are nice, and they're just iconic. And just look at those pop counts and you'll be like, yeah, if I have a 6 or a 7 in either one of those cards, they're incredibly rare. And I used to have a 62 Jim Brown in the 7, but it was really ugly. It was one of those really ugly 7s that sometimes you got from PSA. A lot of chipping off center. It just did not have good eye appeal. So I got rid of it, but that's a card that I would definitely look to replace. Is that 62? And that same show that I picked up the Jim, this is the last card I picked up at that show I was telling you about with my Mike Trout money. Is this Jim Thorpe here? And it's a 3. For anyone who ever goes to National, I got this card from 707 Sports. And anyone who ever's dealt in vintage knows how difficult it is to get a deal with Levi at 707. So, it can happen. It can happen. You can make a deal. It's really tough sometimes. But he's a character, man. Like, He's in one of my videos. He's a character in one of my videos. Overpaying, yeah, like that's a good point. Like so it's tough. I'm a collector. So the first thing, if I'm going to overpay, the card better be high end for the grade. Like that's sort of my first criteria. Or incredibly rare, or something that just is so rare you don't see it. So like I'll go both extremes. So let's take that 62 tops Jim Brown. If I saw a PSA 6 that was perfectly centered without a lot of chipping, I would overpay for it. I would pay, let's say it's worth $800 and the guy had it for 12. I would try to get it to 1,000 at least, but I would still consider it at 12 if it was that nice. So that's sort of like how I look at it. It's like it looks like a 7. If a 7's worth like $2,500, I view it kind of like I'm getting 7 quality for half the price. And that's how I sort of in my mind do the gymnastics. I know if I have to resell it, I may lose money on it. But I also take the mentality that if I'm going to overpay, then I need to hold. I cannot just flip that card quickly. So if I'm going to overpay, I'm going to have to hold the card for a certain amount of time and also know that it's really high end for the grade. And those two things give me my confidence to overpay. On the other side, something incredibly rare like the 68 3D Clemente, I would just want to own the card. I don't care what it looks like. It's in that same category as a 52 tops Mickey Mantle, right? At some point, if you want to own that card and you have a budget, you're going to have to either find one like the golden grail of the holy grail, sorry, of low condition 52 mantles is one that's been taken out of a book. So the entire front is pristine, but it's missing almost the entire back. And so it's a 1 or it's an authentic, right? But from the front, it looks like a 10. From the back, it's got no back. That's what a lot of guys look for because they know they can't afford a real, PSA 6, 7, 8, or 9. But they can afford the one where the entire back's missing. But from the front, it looks pretty awesome. And then we put it in their display from the front, it looks like they got a PSA 7 or 8. That is, what a lot of guys go for. That's sort of what I'm talking about for the 68 3D Clemente. Yeah, if that card was folded in half and it was a PSA 2, I would still want it because that card's so rare and I need it. And I would still overpay for it. I'd be like, well, the last 2 sold for $2,000, so I guess I'll give you 3, right? And just be like, okay, I finally have one. I don't have to look for it anymore. But cards that are very common in liquid, easy to find, easy to sell. You see 3 or 4 of them every show. They're on eBay all the time. I don't find those cards appealing to overpay, even if they're really nice. Even if they're really nice, it would have to be something where I'd have to have some eye appeal that would just make me really, really drool because I think I still have it. I'm pulling cards off my shelf here. Yeah, this card right here. So this was a last year's pickup, 59 Maze PSA 8. It's very well centered. It's got great color, great borders. I overpaid on this card a couple like $200. Okay. But what I'm going to say is that it's an overpayment, but it was still within shouting distance. In fact, a few cards had sold above it before, so averaged out, overpaid. But in that case, again, sometimes it's kind of like relative. When you're at the National, there's something that does happen to you, and this is something you have to really kind of like guard against. Is the room of the National will calibrate you to pricing differently because you'll see the same card 5 or 6 times, and if everyone's overpriced, you just start to assume, okay, well that card's $1,000, and you need to go back to eBay and go to other sources to get some data because I've done this. I've gone to the National struck out on a card and just bought it off eBay in my hotel room, and just been like, screw it, I'll just buy the one that's on eBay tonight and get it for $200 or $300 under what everyone else wants is wanting for it. Don't get calibrated by the national. Don't go around the room and just assume since everyone's overpriced, the card is magically worth more money than it is on eBay or other places. You just have to be careful. The hardest thing that you can do at the national that I found is to walk away without spending money, especially if you brought money and cards to spend and you don't get any deals, you can't find what you're looking for, and you just walk out and kind of have a bad show. When those things happen to me, I've been at some shows where nothing was working. I can't find any deals. I can't find the players I want. Condition isn't what I want. I then hit the dollar boxes. I look for an open product to open. I look, maybe there's an autograph I want to get. Like I start really flipping the switch on just trying to be open to other opportunities and ideas to have fun. But yeah, it's don't I always said, like, don't let the room dictate the fun that you're having at the show. You know, go to corporate events. Maybe there's something there. I mean, you're there anyway. I don't like to kind of like start to get depressed because I can't find what I'm looking for. I generally try to then talk to friends and go to dealers and like and just get myself out of it, because I've been at shows where it's been very disappointing, honestly. Because I went for a certain card and I couldn't find it, and then I kind of go home and feel like it was a waste of time. And then I figured out, like, well, I'm the one that I can control that. I can have more of an open mind on what to look for and just have fun. Opening a box of cards or going through dollar boxes or whatever. You might find something just really fun and cool that you never would have found if you hadn't done that. And I find that too, is like when I kind of change my mindset, things open up, and then all of a sudden a deal kind of like falls in my lap. Yeah, I mean, there are dealers. I mean, I know dealers that I love, just to have talking to. I'm from Indianapolis, so Indy Card Exchange, Andy, the owner, is a friend of mine, and I always look forward to talking to Andy. He's one of those guys that when I was setting up at card shows in Indianapolis, he was always just a really cool dude and really nice to me, and just really glad he opened a card shop and he's in the hobby to do that, because he is a true to his word guy that will treat you fair. And I just love the fact that he took the hobby that he loved, because he had a great job. Like, if you follow his what he was doing before, he could have just been a collector, and he bought a shop. He took a risk, man. He really did take a risk. Like, owning card shop is not without a lot of risk. And I give him the applause for actually making that leap from being a collector, part-time dealer, to owning a shop. That's a big move. That's one. For the vintage side, Kurt's Cards has always been a guy I've dealt with. Kurt Coltrane. He doesn't bring a lot of cards. In fact, I even looked if he's set up yet at the show. He Quality Cards is another guy. I really his I have a good time with his setup. But it those guys have been around forever, and you know they don't have the volume of inventory that other dealers have. They're more just like fun to talk to. And if I find something cool on their table, then that's awesome. But they're more of just dealers I go to have fun and chat with, and then say, hey, this guy is going to have this cool inventory for me to go through. There's dealers also I don't really enjoy. I mean, Card Country is. I'm the only collector in the world that probably hates Card Country. And if you don't know who they are, they're like a family of, they're like a whole family that comes to these big shows. They wear like matching shirts, and they screwed me over in a deal, and I haven't really got over it yet. And um, the owner of Card Country and I don't really get along, so they're not someone I look forward to. Just because like I just don't like people treating people poorly, and they've treated some of my friends poorly as well. So they're not on my list. 707 cards, Levi, he's always a hoot. He's got great stories. So it's just fun to see the guys that's been in it a long time. And just the old school dealers. I'm thinking of the guy I bought my 59 Mantle or Maze from last show. Oh, what's his name? He's not Polo Grounds. It's he's from St. Louis. He's always at the show. He's a nice guy, but man, he's overpriced. Big time on a lot of this stuff. So he's hard for me to deal with. I wish I can't remember his name now. But he's been around forever too. But yeah, that's the thing is you go enough shows, you start seeing dealers, and sometimes I just recognize them who they are. I'm like, hey, that guy's nice, that guy's not. That guy has good stuff, that guy's overpriced. It's just you kind of get used to those to that room. But there's so many new stuff. I mean, new dealers and people with stuff that you kind of have to take stock of their inventory, and kind of get an idea of what they're about on their table to to get an idea of because even Geo from Source Card Honest had this you talked about have them price out a card the price of it, and you can tell if they're going to be honest or they're going to be close. That kind of works, but sometimes people are weird about pricing. I view it kind of like, are they pricing the card because they think it's really nice and so they're overpriced, but everything else on the table is priced okay? It's a little more nuanced than just like take one card and make a big determination. But yeah, be like vintage collecting. The reason why I think it's so enticing is because it's a lot more contained, meaning that you don't have to worry about like the next set of vintage to come out. You don't have to worry about them making any more cards, of what you're collecting. What's there is kind of there. And so it does give you comfort that, the pop counts aren't going to just double, triple overnight. It's kind of that it feels safer to a lot of people. The thing about vintage cards, I think too, though, that is really fresh is when you find those really nice eye appeal cards, no matter the grade, it could be a 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever it is, that kind of speak to you. Like when you see it, like I'll give you a card that speaks to me is the T3s, the big, the big T20, I guess T20, gosh, I'm trying to think. 5 cards. I got some back here, but like the really big tobacco cards, right? Like T3s. The Chrissy Mathewson, like that card. When I see it, like it immediately forms a lust. Like I see that card, I want to buy. I need to have that card. I love that card so much. Just like that image, how that card looks. It's just one of the nicest looking cards of all time. It's like when you see a really nice Cracker Jack card, like when you see like a super red background with not a lot of caramel smearing Cracker Jack card that's in good condition, it makes you really, really want to collect that set. And so that's what happens with vintage cards. Like you'll see a card that you've never seen before in a condition that is immaculate, and it's like you fall in love with that. Like wow, that card is 100 and something years old, and it looks like that still. That is insane. And a lot of people just, they just have a different feel to them when you hold them, when you see the images. It's just a different thing. And for people who do both, like I do both, it's kind of like it's 2 different worlds. Like you put one hat on when you're out there looking for vintage cards, especially pre-war. And then when you do the modern stuff, you have to have a different way of looking and mindset about it, because you look at a T3 card or a any of the candy cards, and you're going to have to see through some issues. You're going to be like, well, the corners are round, but it's got great color. It's got symmetrical borders. It's like you're not looking at it the same way, and you got to have kind of like a mindset like this is great eye appeal and condition for this set. Whereas modern cards all kind of have to be a certain way, or else they're just not worth a lot of money, condition wise. I always say this. You make a very astute observation about Griffey and Jordan, because it's kind of a joke now amongst Griffey collectors. Is like, if you don't have a lot of money as a Jordan collector, collect Griffey. Hey, hobby champs, what's up, man? If and I don't mean that negative. I don't mean to make fun of people, but there is this sort of thing like, if I can't afford the high end Jordans, but I can still afford the high end Griffeys. And so you see that sometimes where Jordan collectors get into Griffey. In fact, the biggest one is collecting Griffey right now. That's Nate Turner. He is a big Griffey collector and he's a big Jordan collector. And you're seeing this sort of migration of the Jordan guys getting into Griffey. And the Jordan guys, like I'm going to generalize, but they collect Tiger Woods, they collect, maybe LeBron James, but they collect these kind of like the best in every sport. And Griffey, for the most part, from the 90s, is that guy. And so what you're seeing is at the top end of the Griffey scale, lots of competition for the same cards. Like some of the refractors, the established, the man refractor, like some of the numbered high-end refractors, the essential credentials, the PMGs, the top 1% of Griffey cards have a lot of Jordan collectors buying them. So, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about Griffey. The one thing that I like about Griffey and Jordan both is they have super high end, sort of expensive, like they have multiple tiers of collectability built into them because of the time period they were. So you can buy a lot of really cool looking Griffey cards that's still in that $10 to $20 range. I'm trying to give you an example of one. But there's so many cool Griffey cards that aren't very expensive. Well, I mean, like you can start off right here. Like maybe I get you a different one just to give you an idea. But like, like here's I know a lot of people will say it's, this is the black refractor. I believe it's 2000. Look here, 2005. But that black refractor really pops. He's a red, so it's cuts the value down tremendously. But these cards are starting to gain a little traction, and these are pretty inexpensive. So you got a lot of these later year Griffey refractors that look amazingly cool that are selling for like $40, $50, $25, and they're from when he played. So yeah, they're not from when he was a player or sorry, a Mariner, but they're still playing year Griffeys. Here's another really good example. Here is, I believe, a 2001 refractor. I believe these were the retro refractors, but it's the first time they ever reprinted him as an 89 Topps. But this came out when he was still a player. So again, they're not super expensive, but people are starting to catch on that this is his first really reprint rookie, and it's a refractor, and it's pretty tough to get. They were, I believe, like 1 in 80 something packs, and there's more than Griffey in that set. And again, then you got the high end or the like almost like mid tier. Here's the cut above Griffey. That's raw. I'm going to be getting great at the show. This will be my second copy. My other one came back at 9, and I've looked this one over. I think it's better, but will they give this? It's very tough. They will not give this card a 10 very often. Just it's a hard card with all the die cuts and everything. But again, this card raw is close to $1,000. This card raw is like $40, $60 maybe. So here's another good example. This is like a $100 card. The gold, the certified gold team. The card itself looks super nice. You can see how it kind of refracts light there. So again, that's the cool thing is like with Griffey, you can get super high end or mid tier and still get some really really nice cards. Um, Obviously PSA 10 anything it gets kind of crazy no matter what. That's a good, David, on the thing with Marvel cards, man, I'm going to be very interested in seeing the Marvel card um, presence at the National, because we all know 2 years ago and then last year there was still some hype around Marvel cards. The hype has gone down, but pricing wise, so for everyone, I'm sure if you watch the channel, I have a bunch of Marvel cards because I was a lot of them EPAC. Um, a lot of cards I got on EPAC back in the day. So the 2007 Fleur Ultra set, or sorry, the 17 Ultra Spider-Man set, I probably bought 100 boxes, honestly, and sold a lot of the PMGs I pulled, but you don't see a lot of hype about it. But I'm going to tell you, like on ComC this year alone, I've sold over $2,000 in the last month of Marvel cards. And I still have a metric ton of Marvel cards I'm going to be shipping off to ComC to sell. So, I had all those sketch cards. I've been selling sketch cards on ComC. The lower end ones are $45. I'm getting $150 to $200 for some sketch cards. So I just like hockey cards. A lot of people are like, "Oh, hockey's down." I'm like, dude, I sell a lot of hockey cards in ComC. I sell a lot of hockey cards in general. I got that Jack Hughes O-Pee-Chee Platinum Surge Emerald numbered out of 10. Taking it with me, man. If it's a PSA 10, that thing, I might get $4,000 for it. I've not seen a lot of retro games as far as comic books. Also, like games and comic books, I've not seen a lot of games. Comics, there's always one or two dealers who do comics and cards. There's one infamous dealer who does comics, but all his comics are harmed. Be careful. And I wish I knew what his dealer name was, but he's a guy. He'll have like some graded stuff, so that's fine. But he'll have a bunch of raw, like an Avengers 1, a Spider-Man 1, and there'll be missing pages. There'll be issues. Beware of that guy. If you see a guy who's got displayed comics and cards and a lot of really cool, first appearance stuff, just check page count. Just be careful with that guy. I've had a few, not just me, but other collectors warn me about him too. Yes, he does. Yeah, he definitely, yeah. When you walk up on his table, he gives you a little bit of the willies. Yeah, it's just you can tell, like, the way he's got things priced, the way he talks. It's just, I'll give you an example. Like most of his graded comic books have been restored. So like, and he prices them like they haven't. So, anyone who's in the comic book world knows, like, a CGC 6 that's been restored is worth about a CGC 3, right? So it's worth like half price once it's restored. And he prices everything like it's normal. And like he doesn't understand that like being restored means that like it's worth half price. So like just kind of the starter for me with that guy. Will there be more people doing cards and comics? I hope so, because that's what I would love that. But the National's still a bunch of old dudes who've been carrying around cards forever. So that's still going to be a lot of the room. So the newer dealers are taking over to some extent. I think half and half. Half modern dealers who kind of know how to price, know how to sell, aren't carrying the same cards they've been carrying around for the last 20 years. And then you got some of those old guys who, I've said this before, these dealers don't want to sell because if they sold their inventory, they wouldn't have anything to bring with them to the next show. And they're retired, a lot of them, and this is their vacation, and this is kind of like how they have fun, and they don't really want to sell their inventory. They kind of like, want to keep it. And they sold their cards and they wouldn't have an excuse to go to the next show, right? Um, yeah, that's cool, man. Like, ComC is great, man. Like, I'm very excited about ComC. The selling, the PSA grading on ComC is dumb. $24. What the hell are they thinking? $24 per card. I mean, come on. You know, I'm having a hard time thinking that they couldn't negotiate a better price than that. I mean, if it was $20, it's still $4, you know, or sorry, $5 more than CSG. I mean, I don't get it. You know, that's the problem with the hobby right now. You know, in my opinion, like the bigger problem is that, you know, they'll, you know, like they announce or they pseudo announce that hey, we're not going to do a trade night or this trade night situation, then they rescinded it. You know, PSA comes out with some stupid price for its ComC pricing. You know, they're probably going to change it when they get a lot of pushback and they don't get a lot of volume. It's like every step along the way, the first inclination is to try to like maximize the dollars at every turn. You know, it's like, you know, you already have the market PSA. My God, you don't need to extort us on ComC too. You know, like Jesus, man, like, you know, you're gonna get a lot of people sub through you if you just put it at normal price. It's I don't get it. They just opened the New Jersey facility. They got to fill it up. You know. Yeah, no, I agree, B man. Like it's just I don't know. It feels so weird in this hobby, man. Like these, you know, the circular side of the hobby. You know, Dustin did this thing where he talked about, you know, like modern guys or the, you know, old guys haven't seen a hobby change like this before, right? You know, we've never seen prices go up like this and come down like this and all this stuff. I'm like, 2016, dude, it happened in 2016. But you know, we've seen the cyclical nature of it all the time. And when these guys get too greedy, the hobbyist will, you know, make changes. And if you think about it, I say this to everyone is like, if you went back 10 years ago or maybe a little further, you know, the people who were number one in the hobby aren't there anymore in terms of like auction house. Mastro is not there anymore. Hell, Memory Lane was bigger than Golden at one point, right? Where are they now? So this, you know, this hobby does change. The people in it change to some extent in terms of who's number one, who's number two. But you know, I have a ton of cards graded by PSA, but I would be stupid to tell you guys if I thought that PSA couldn't screw it up. You know, they try hard enough, they could screw it up. You know, and you know, I'm hoping they don't do it. I'm hoping that like they don't pull a Beckett. But you know, look at Beckett. I mean, they were the undisputed number two and pushing PSA for number one for a lot of years. And now no one even talks about them anymore, let alone think of them as a serious number two contender for the crown. And that's what I'm, you know, that's something that these people, you know, people in this hobby need to realize is that change can happen fast. You know, all it takes is one major screw up and you're out. You know, your reputation's sullied. Now, you're out like for some period of time, and then the hobby lets you back in, right? You know, King Golden can, you know, give Kobe a bad check, rip him off for money, go on Shop at Home, hawk, you know, basically rip people off on Shop at Home, and then come back and be a hobby god. I mean, you know, nothing ever goes away in this hobby, but you can ruin your reputation for like 5 or 10 years. And Mastro, I mean, it would not shock me if at some point Bill Mastro came back. It would not shock me. Because look at Mike Baker. The dude is like has 20 lives in this hobby. You know, I mean, GAI alone should have run him out of the hobby for just allowing douchebaggery to happen under his name. And he's around. He's still around. He's grading cards. You know, and Marshall Fogel just did a giant ad for him by having all his cards, with Mike Baker stickers. Man, it's so weird. It's so weird to see, to see that. Yeah, sounds like hobby bankruptcy. I agree. The hobby itself, I mean, it's funny because, it wouldn't shock me either if at some point Kid and Golden sold or something happened to his auction house. Like I feels like it's unstable. Like, you know, he did the whole thing just to sell and now he sold. I can't imagine he's going to stick around. Man, that's a great question, B. That's a really good question, man. So here's my honest opinion. Neither, in my opinion, are worth much. That Mike Baker or PWCC, at the end of the day, I don't think hobbyists put a lot of stock into their stickers. Only when they try to sell as a way to delineate, I call it like splitting hairs, right? It's a PSA 8, but it's a, it's a PWCCA or it's a, or E or whatever grade they give for, eye appeal, right? It's a Mike Baker Gold or Mike Baker Platinum or whatever it is. I get it. I understand why they're doing it. But to me, as a collector, when I get that card in my collection, am I sitting there going like, the reason why this card is so nice, it's got a Mike Baker sticker, or because the card's really nice? Do I need a Mike Baker sticker to tell me what a card's nice and when it's not nice? Considering that the majority of what he puts stock into is centering. I can measure a card and I can tell if it's centered or not. I don't really need a sticker to tell me that. So, that's, again, I'm a little jaded because I've been around forever. I'm old. So to me, like it seems, I'm sure like I'm saying the same thing that the dude said about PSA cards. It's like, I don't need a PSA holder to tell me it's an imminent card. Okay, I get that. But I honestly think PWCC probably does a little bit better job on their stickers in terms of what it means to Mike Baker. Just because look at the standards that they're both using. I think Mike Baker is not as good as what PWC is trying to do in terms of what their sticker means. Yeah, and I think that is, you talk about, the premium they're getting, right? I get it. That's why they do it. I mean, that's why the only reason why it's stuck around. But again, it turns into NASCAR, right? Like, okay, I got a Mike Baker sticker and this thing. And I mean, how many authentications can you have on a card before you can kind of see what grade it is? I mean, it's going to be like that for a while. Again, I've never really had conversations with Mike Baker personally. I just know so many people who've had their cards stolen or ripped off or misplaced that I just don't want to give that guy money. So maybe I'm just, I just don't want to give that guy money. The Ludex app. No, I'm not. What is the Ludex app? That's interesting. Anything that's new, I find interesting. Tag grading, I find interesting. Even though I'm not really going to use them, but tag grading, interesting concept. But yeah, like anything new, the hobby is, again, what's the ratio in my world for innovation? 1 out of 3, 2 out of 10 is a good hit rate for new ideas. In this hobby, I wonder what the hit rate is. How many new products get to market for the hobby apps, stuff and survive longer than 2 years. I bet it's probably pretty low. I don't have them with me. They're put back. I did buy 2 slab mags. Dustin did influence me to buy some slab mags, and they're very nice holders, but they don't nestle very well. That's the one thing I found is like, and they're too expensive to use for a big collection. I can't imagine that someone has their entire collection in a slab mag. That would just be. And then I just saw where they advertise slab mags for comic books. I think it's got to be $80, for a comic book size holder like that. $80, man, for a holder. We're getting into where the holder is worth more than the actual comic book at some point. Card scan app. Yeah, so the slab mag holders are supposed to nestle so that when you put them in a box, they kind of stack, and they don't. It's very tough to make them stack. They you just move them slightly, they just pop out. So like when you move your card box around, like when you have PSA and you stack PSA cards, on top of each other, they nestle and they'll kind of stick together. Slab mags don't. They just roll around. You put them in a box without a lot of pressure, like they'll just be everywhere. They don't stick together. It's very interesting. So yeah, card scanning. No, I mean, is Ludex designed to like give you a price? Because I mean, I think someone was trying to do that. I saw an app on a channel that was doing that as well. What do I think were great innovations? Whew, well, I mean, I think if I went through and did a little bit of a history of the hobby when I was looking at how can we change our definition of modern or kind of our terminology around the eras of sports cards. So to me, I look at certain years like, going back to this, so, going back to the 52 tops, like the standardization of the baseball card was a big deal, right? The size. So let's, it's just a semantics thing. Okay, we settled on size. You had, multi series to one series. That was a change. You had horizontal cards and better photography. That was a change. To me, the first time I noticed cards being premium was 1984 Donruss. That was, something that, white paper stock, very clean cards. They just looked different than any other baseball card I've ever seen. So 84 Donruss to me was important because you had the Don Mattingly rookie, you had Darryl Strawberry, you had a giant rookie card class along with this kind of super premium looking product. And to me, that is where this idea of premium cards started. You had Tiffany sets that came out around that time too. So 84 to me is the seminal moment in the hobby where we took rookie cards, premium looking cards in limited editions and started the ball rolling to what we got in the early to late 90s or early 90s, late 80s, which is 89 Upper Deck, 91 Stadium Club, inserts in what was it, 90 Donruss. You had the first elite card. So it's like, we started to see innovation, true innovation in card quality, how cards were distributed, how cards are made, the photography, it all started, in my opinion, with the 84 Donruss set, which is why I think 84 Donruss is lost its place in history. But for a lot of collectors of my generation, 84 Donruss holds a really special place. And, I think to this day, it's one of the nicest looking sets, that's out there from the 80s. So yeah, to me, 84 Donruss is a major innovation. But, throughout the years, the cards that just, the first time I saw 89 Upper Deck blew my mind. 91 Stadium Club with the stamping and the really cool photography. It just, like as cool as 89 Upper Deck was, 91 Stadium Club was like, we went from a rocket to like or from a jet to a rocket, it's like we evolved really fast. Like we went from like, ooh, a hologram, which was cool, to like, holy crap, we're doing gold embossing and super glossy and crazy, Nolan Ryan in tuxedos. I mean, what's going on here? So it was like this, that evolution was fast. 92 Topps Gold. Oh yeah, 92 Topps Gold. The worst thing they ever did was the winter cards, right? Because that really sort of like, I don't know. I mean, I understand it was, they were different because you could shine a light and see the winners through them. But I do like 92 Topps Gold. Like that was a huge chase. 91 Topps base set is one of the nicest looking sets ever made. Like 91 Topps Tiffany. That's a great set. 91 Topps Tiffany, man. 91 Topps, like, obviously Topps had to get their head out of their butt after 90 Topps, right? If you think about how the hobby went, it went 89 Upper Deck, blowing everything out of the water. People's minds were like freaked out. 90 Topps comes out in one of the worst looking ugly sets ever made. Like, they had to step up. And 91 Topps was great. 91 Topps was great. And they did that, the buybacks. I mean, did anyone ever get a card from 91 Topps, like the vintage? That was such a big deal. And it was like, man, I can't wait to pull an old card, and you get like a Mike Boddicker, or like an 85 Topps. Like you wouldn't get a 65 Topps, you get an 85 Topps. But yeah, no, I do agree, man. The gold cards, and that's the thing, is like the hobby evolves so fast. If you think about from basically the 60s and 70s, little innovation, series and photography mainly. And then all of a sudden you jump to 84, from 84 to 89 to 91. It's like from 84 to 89 in that 5-6 years, we went premium, we went limited edition, rookie card centric. And then after 89, it was just like, it was an arms race. It was like inserts, how can we, make inserts better? How can we do more value? How can we do autographs? It was like everything became on the table after that, because, there was so much competition. And if you think about today, it's like without this competition, innovation in the hobby is really stagnant right now. I mean, I don't know if anyone just saw Topps Chrome just came out with a taco fractor, a refractor with a taco on it. I mean, that sure beats the embossed refractors from 97, right? I mean, come on. What are we doing? Taco fractors, and pink shimmer wave or whatever. I mean, it's just, they've lost their ability to know what true innovation is and what coolness is. It's like, hey, we're going to make the next, almost like meme cards. It's like, hey, we're going to do something funny, charge you a lot of money for it. 89, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. 89, I mean, it's interesting that they followed up, because I agree, 89 Topps is very classy looking. I do think 91 Topps was their response to Upper Deck. That was them saying, we can do cool modern looking cards. The wax pack change, it was like they did a lot of innovations in that short time frame. But if you think about it, Topps really never made an iconic base set after what, 91? Because after that, they just went generic. Yeah, floppy taco. I agree. It's just so weird, man. And I get it. Modern, collectors maybe don't care about stuff like we care about. They don't want everything to be retro, and I agree too. I get sick and tired of like them pulling out the 52 Topps set design. When it's like, Well, we tried everything else. What do? Issue another 52 top set design. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't just roll out 52 tops whenever you run out of ideas. You've done it like 20 times. I'm not going to keep buying my King Griffey Jr. cards in another 52 design because you guys can't think of anything else. No, that's really what they do, and it's kind of funny, honestly. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. I just want to go on here and tell everyone thank you guys. I appreciate everyone that comes on and says hi, talks. I will be doing more box break content really soon. I'm going to be posting a 99 Fleer Tradition box. And at the National, I'm going to be looking for some 90s boxes. And I'm hoping to do a box break at the National of something cool from the 90s. So, in the comments of this video, if you guys could put some suggestions of what boxes you want to see me break, that would be awesome. Because, again, I've done 41. And so I'm looking for some ideas. But thank you, Mookie, and good night, and love chatting. And you guys have been awesome. And I'll see you guys pretty soon. And I'll be posting some box breaks and some content from the National, guys. See you guys later. Bye.